Okay, welcome to writing day number 5. This is continuing with argumentative essays. And today we're going to talk about going from an opinion to what's called a full thesis. Now, your thesis statement is your opinion boiled down to one arguable statement. So it's essentially the heartbeat or the essence of your essay, the argument. Now, today we're going to be just using Ender's Game, so we're not going to use other specialized areas of knowledge that you have. We're all going to use Ender's Game for our material because that's what we're reading together. So whenever you start an essay and you have a topic, you want to just start listing as many interesting things about that topic as you can, interesting facts. So this is a way to do that. You can answer these questions that might help you see interesting things about whatever it is you're writing about. So in terms of Ender's Game, for this one, I'm going to skip down to question 8 and just ask you what has happened so far in the novel that you find interesting or unusual. And so pause the video now and just come up with 3 or 4 things that you find to be the most interesting or maybe the most unusual about the novel so far. Do that now. Okay, so hopefully you have a list of 3 or 4 things that just really interest you or that you find unusual. Some of the things I thought of, the relationship between Ali and Ender I find really interesting. The relationship between Val and Ender, very interesting. I think it's just interesting in general that they take kids and put them in such isolation. I think it's just interesting that there is a battle school for children. That's unusual. Also that there's so few girls. That's unusual as well. So those are some interesting facts about the novel. Now, once we have those facts, though, we want to start asking questions related to those facts. So the last one that I said was it's unusual that there are so few girls at the battle school. So some of the questions would just be, well, why? Why are there so few girls? Why aren't there more girls that pass and make it to battle school? What about being a girl seems to give you a disadvantage? There's maybe some other questions just surrounding that you could come up with. One that I think of is what are some potential strengths that girls would have that the battle school is missing out on? So how might having more girls benefit the battle school? Would it? And so those are some various questions that you can ask. So I want you to pause it now and just start to ask a bunch of questions that are related to the interesting facts that you came up with. Do that now. Okay, so now you've had some interesting facts. You've asked questions about and relating to those facts. And then I want you to pick some of the really more interesting questions that you had and start to answer them with statements. So one of the last things I said was, does the battle school need more girls? What advantages might that give the battle school? And so answering the question, the first question, I could just say, yes, the battle school needs to have more girls. That would be answering the question with a statement. That would be a kind of thesis. Would the other question I said, well, would the battle school be better off with more girls? I could also just say, yes, the battle school would be better off if there were more girls in it. That would be a statement. That's also an opinion, and it would be the start of my thesis. Now, so as you start to answer these questions, you're going to develop these different theses, and you can also start to look at your opponent's position. What position might be, what points might be brought up against you. So for every thesis statement that you make, there's also an antithesis. So for the thesis, battle school would be better off if there were more girls in it. The antithesis of that would be the battle school would not be better off with more girls in it. So that's the opposite view of that. So for every one of these answers that you come up with, try to also come up with the antithesis for them. So a thesis and an antithesis for these different questions that you have. So stop to answer these really interesting questions that you've had and try to develop 2 or 3 different theses and antitheses. And do that now. So now you should have 2 or 3 developed answers to those questions, which are two or three different theses, and then you should have basically their opposites, their antitheses. And then what you have now, I want you to pick your favorite ones, your favorite answer, your favorite thesis, and you're going to develop a full thesis. So what I want you to do now is take that thesis, your favorite one, your favorite answer to that question that you had about that interesting fact, and you're going to you're going to think of a few different points that can be made against your thesis. So you have your thesis. Mine was the battle school would be better off if there were more girls in it. Well, what are some points that can be made against your thesis? Well, boys may be stronger physically than girls, so they wouldn't be better soldiers. They may not be as aggressive. They may not. There might be some things evolutionarily that aren't as developed in terms of fighting and strength, things like that. What are some points in favor of your thesis? Well, do they need to have brute strength? Do girls have other qualities, social skills, attention to detail? The other thing is girls at the age of 6 to 12 develop usually earlier than boys. So in a lot of cases, girls are going to be stronger than boys at that age. And so does that even matter? So these are some points that are in favor of my thesis now. So now I've got a thesis, a bunch of different points that people could use against me, and then a bunch of points that I could use in favor of my thesis. So what I want you to do is do that for your favorite thesis. Put a number 1, period, write your thesis. Put a number 2, and then subpoints A, B, C, D. How many points can you think of that'll be made against your thesis? And then number 3, and then A, B, C, D. How many points can you have in favor of your thesis? And that is what we call your full thesis. You never actually use that everything that you write in your full thesis in your paper necessarily. You definitely use your thesis, but you use the rest of it to really help you develop other ideas in your paper. So pause the video now and do that. Okay, and so now you have a full thesis, and next time we'll start to work on your introductory paragraph and get the essay started.